Welcome to The Funnel. My name is John Shea, and I'm president of Alignment Group. This is episode number 230 of The Funnel. Sales Managers, Creating a Successful Sales Culture 101. Before we get started, I want to remind you to head on over to alignment-group.com/The Funnel. We're the library page and download the best of The Funnel and insights we've included in this best of series, everything that we've ever done on the 6-step sales hiring process in one location. Just download it and you have links to the podcast. You have the blogs that we've written. It's all there for the taking. And if something else interests you, go ahead and download it as well. Today's agenda: walk the same path. Include the team. It's personal and value. Some of these things we've talked about before, but I want to talk about them in the context of culture. So what do I mean by walk the same path? Well, it's pretty simple. Here's what happens. You get a job in sales. You start your career out learning how to be a salesperson. Whether you have formal training or informal training or a good manager or a bad manager, you've managed to have some level of success. You've read books and you've gotten better and better at your job. And you're at the top of your game, your team, your career. And you decide to move into management. So they move you into management. You get hired for that role and you move into management. And again, kind of in many cases, for some of us, it was rinse, repeat, right? History repeats itself. We didn't get a lot of training, a lot of support and help in becoming sales reps. A lot of what we learned on our own. We found a few mentors or colleagues that were experienced to help us. And occasionally we hit on a really good manager that helped us. But for the most part, we've scratched and clawed our way to the top. We get to the management role and it's the same thing. There's no onboarding. There's no management program. There's no training. There's no development. You just do what your manager did with you and then pulled out the things you liked or didn't like. So think about it. You know, those of us who have kids, we try to do the best we can as our parents, but I'm sure if they wrote a list of all the things we do wrong, it would be extensive. And when they become parents, they do what we did. They try to pull those things out that maybe they didn't like, tweak it a little bit, and use the things that they felt were valuable and worth something. Well, that's what you do as a manager. The issue I see is that oftentimes managers move into that role and they feel like to some degree they've arrived. The role's changed. They have a lot of meetings up the food chain, maybe sideways across the food chain, sales manager meetings. A lot of administrative responsibilities, phone calls, emails, voicemails, text messages, events, whatever it is. They get pretty busy pretty fast. They feel like they have a good team in place, and their job is to hire that team and to some degree coach and train, depending on how well they've been coached and trained. But what they don't do, some, not all, but what they don't do is get into the trenches. They don't go out there, roll up their sleeves, and do what their sales reps do. I have been guilty of this. All of us have. But what greater feeling can you have than to sell something? And then as a manager, to see your sales rep sell something. I really enjoyed their success. But sometimes they just need to see that you'll do what they do. You'll go back in time and make some calls. I've got a couple stories. I will never forget Gary. I'll give you his last name. A manager I had years ago. Sales reps were complaining about prospects and how difficult it is to find prospects. And this is way before inbound marketing, just around the beginning of the internet. So there really was no other way to get business than to A, get in your car and drive around, or B, make phone calls, generally off a list of customers or prospects, something you've purchased from somewhere. And you just go down the list and you try to get appointments. So he goes in his office, he sits down, he opens up the yellow pages, and he picks architects, and he just starts making calls. Branch manager. A lot of responsibility. And he's setting appointments for sales reps. And he's going on those appointments with sales reps. How do you beat that? How do you beat a guy who's sitting down? Hey, I understand. I feel your pain. It's hard to get prospects. Let me see what I can do to help you. Sits down, opens up the book, and makes the calls. The message is clear from him. I've done it. I've been successful. I've earned the right to be here. I've earned the right to be a manager and then here as a branch manager. But I haven't forgotten what it takes to be successful, and I'm going to show you that I haven't forgotten. And I'm going to do what I'm asking you to do. It's like the parents who smoke, right? Do as I say, not as I do. While they're smoking a cigarette and telling their kids not to. Same thing, right? Except he didn't do that. Rolled up his sleeves, got into the trenches, and he made sales calls. I'll never forget my first day on the job. My friend Bill, my good friend Bill, just talked to him about a month ago. I told him, I mentioned him in my podcast. He smiled. He doesn't listen to my podcast. That hurts, but not that much. Bill's retired now. And my first day on the job, he had a tough install on a piece of equipment. We were selling hardware, and he asked me to get in a car with him. We got in a car and we drove out to this site. His rep was out there, and he was out there, and he was helping him get this thing installed, helping the drivers. I mean, they had to use a crane to get this thing in the building. It was pretty difficult. But he had no problem getting there side by side and working that. But here's the kicker. At the end of that call, he said, "You ready?" And I said, "Ready for what?" He said, figured we were going back to the office and do some work. He goes, "Let's go make some sales calls." And we cold called. Again, this was before the internet. The only way you got prospects was going out in the field. We went and knocked on doors. He walked in and started talking. After he did a couple of calls, and I got a feel for his rap and what he talked about with his company, I stepped in and did a few. And we laughed and had fun, got a couple appointments for reps. So what was that all about? Well, there's a couple things. One, he was sending me a message. This is what we do here. We roll up our sleeves, we get in the trenches, and we make sales calls side by side with our team members. And I'm going to show you that I do it, and I'm not above doing it. And you're a manager working for me. I need you to do it. I need you to get dirty sometimes. Sometimes you need to get dirty for them to see the value of what you're bringing to the table, that you know what you're talking about. You're not just preaching to the choir. You show them your successes, you show them your failures, that, hey, I get in these sales calls and things don't always work out 100% of the way they're supposed to. I'm human. But I'm not going to tell you you're doing everything wrong and not do the work. I'm more than willing to help you. Can I do it every day? No. I'm busy. I have things to do as you have things to do. We both have our job responsibilities. But I'm going to take the time to do this with you. Because it's important. Not only for you, but for me. That's culture. That's building a winning culture. And you see it time and time again. Now, some will argue, well, I don't see NFL coaches. Well, most of them are a little too old to be doing that. But nobody works harder than the winning NFL coaches, right? In football. Army generals. There are Army generals that have gotten out in the field with their troops. Done some of the dirty stuff with them. Why? It's leadership. It's culture. You're building that culture. All for one, one for all. That's what this is about. That's what walking the same path. Side by side, shoulder to shoulder. I'm not afraid to do this. I feel your pain. I'm not trying to outshine you or show you up. I'm showing you that I'm willing to do what you do. I've done it before and I'll do it again. Getting dirty goes a long way for your sales team. They appreciate that. So I can give you countless sales examples. I can give you countless real world examples of leaders that have done that. And I can give you simple ones. A simple one. I'm helping a kid play a sport. Teaching her how to play goalie on his team. She wasn't standing right. So I stood in there without any gear on and said, shoot at me. Now, don't shoot hard because I need to live through the day and I'm not wearing a cup. But I stood there and I took the hits and it hurt. And I'm really not better. I'm not really that good at it. But my point was that I'll stand shoulder to shoulder with you and I'll do this and I'll show you how to do it. I'm just not going to bark orders and point my finger. I'm going to get dirty. That's outside the sales context. I gave you a couple inside. One with me, one with Gary, one with Bill. That's culture. Next, include the team. So what do I mean by that? Okay, I'm going to be honest. I do struggle sometimes with these titles of the steps. And if you go to the website, you can watch the video. I use, it's not me standing in front of the camera, looking at my pretty face. I put a presentation type thing together with bullet points. It helps me stay focused and it helps the person who's watching the video take good notes. So include the team I struggle with. How do I put that in place? Well, it's simple. Really what this is about is if you have a project that needs to get done, there's nothing wrong with including team members. There's nothing wrong with asking them what they think and involving them. Ultimately, you make the decision. But including them in projects builds trust. Again, that's culture. You delegate to them the things you want to get done. And you ask them to make good decisions. Here's where I've always said, and I've said this to managers who work for me. I'm not going to get mad at you for making a decision. Okay? Now, if you consistently make really bad decisions, we have to talk. Okay? But I'm not going to get mad at you for making a decision. I'm going to get mad if you don't make a decision. Now, I even tell that to the kids in sports. If you're going to go and you're going to pass that ball and you make a bad decision, I'm okay with it. You're learning. You just can't do it over and over again. But if you freeze and you don't do anything and they blow the whistle and we lose the ball, that's when I'm going to get angry because you didn't make a decision. I'm okay with that. I'm going to delegate this responsibility to you on my team, to this project, make some decisions, put it together. You're going to get some feedback from me, constructive. Some of it's going to be good. Some of it we're going to need to change. But that's how it works. This builds team. It shows your trust in them. Culture. So you're willing to roll up your sleeves and get dirty. Now you're willing to give them a little more responsibility. What does that do for you as a manager? Well, it opens up time to do other things, right? It helps you get your job done. What else does it do? It opens your eyes to the ability of your individual team members beyond what they're selling for you now. You don't want to take away from their field time, and most people will find a way to get it done if you don't overdo it with the projects and the delegating of work. But it opens your eyes into the ability of your team and how they fare in these types of environments. One, how do they work together as a team with a group of people who maybe some they like, some they don't. Some have bigger egos, some have smaller egos. How do they navigate those waters? How do they meet the deadlines? Do they follow a process? Do they get the project done? Is the quality of work good? Can they speak clearly and openly about it? Can they get their point across to you as they go through the project? So you're learning about their ability to potentially manage one day. It's growth. So it helps everybody. You're building value, you're building the team, you're showing trust, and you're learning about the individual players in a business context. How far they can go and how much they can help you in your business and what a potential career path for them forward might look like. Next one is it's personal. Okay, and I've talked about this a little bit. I'm not a overly social guy. So I do it because it's part of the job, it's part of the role. It's not my ultimate comfort zone, going out and hanging out with people. And I would consider myself a bit of an introvert. However, I understand the value of team building. When they'd send my team away to a training class, my managers and myself, I made sure we'd had dinner together a couple of nights. We had a few beers together. And some of it we spent talking about work. Other, we just had fun, playing pool, whatever it is, hanging out, laughing, watching a game. One year we had to go away for Super Bowl Sunday. So we got early flights. We got into town. We loaded up on stuff. We didn't feel like sitting in a bar. And we had a party in our room, one of the rooms. We watched the Super Bowl. Pizza and beer and snacks. It was fun. The whole team. It was fantastic. Go to lunch with your reps. Talk to them about the things that are important to them, whether that's personal, their family, their friends, what they like to do on the weekends. That I was good at because I'm genuinely interested in who they are and what they're about and how I can help them. I just like to know things about, hey, you like to ski? Tell me about your ski weekend. How was it this weekend? That was natural for me because I really was interested in them personally. You should take a personal interest in them. That's how you build culture. He or she cares about me. They ask me questions about my family. They genuinely are interested. You know when people are interested and when they're not, when they're asking you because they have to. Then there's other people that really are interested and they're nice. Do some team dinners. One manager I worked at, he used to do a team dinner every year. It was really nice. Functions, if there's company functions or events, attend them. Make it personal. Not overly personal. But care about the people you work with. You spend the vast majority of time with them every day. You might as well know who they are, what they're about, what's important to them beyond the office, what they care about or don't care about, how well their kids are doing in school. Everybody has problems beyond the business. Sometimes they're just having a tough day because their kid's sick. They're struggling in school. They might tell you about that. You're having lunch. You might offer some advice on that if you've been through something like that, or just a shoulder to cry on. I'm not saying you need to be their best friend, but you get the point here. It's all about becoming a team and working together. People respond to that. They want to be successful for you and for themselves because you care. And they care about you. It's culture. Again, what we're talking about here is building culture. For everything we've talked about, rolling up your sleeves, team projects, delegating, creating a personal atmosphere that's comfortable. Not overly comfortable, but comfortable. Let's talk about value. Value's beyond the numbers. I like people who hit their numbers, and I have a minimal acceptable set of standards for success in my company, right? For anybody that works for me as when I was a manager, a set of standards. This is what you have to do. I'm big on ethics. I'm big on being a good team player, supporting your fellow team members. There's nothing wrong with healthy competition, but it's beyond the numbers. And oh, by the way, yeah, you have to hit your numbers because that's part of the deal. You see them as human beings, treat them as human beings, and not as a number themselves, or as a means to an end for yourself, and you get genuine loyalty. There are sales managers out there that will hurt you to improve themselves. They're not the kind of people you want to work for. And I wouldn't want to work for a company that puts me in that position as a manager. It's got to be a win-win. You create that value, you create good culture. That's the point of this podcast. It's that simple. A couple of 3 or 4 easy tips here, things that you can apply right now as we speak. It's not that hard to delegate. Put some team projects together. It's not that hard to roll up your sleeves and get in the trenches. It's not that hard to take a personal interest in your team. Treat them as human beings. You'll do that, you'll start to build a winning culture. And make no mistake about it. Success, as the company defines it, number 1 is generally revenue or profit targets. That doesn't get excused. That's critical to this. And if you're not hitting that, we're going to have to do something about it. And then you build all this other stuff around it. That's a high-performing sales team. That's a winner. Thanks for subscribing to the Funnel Alignment, -group.com/thefunnel. You can go on over there and subscribe. And we do send out a weekly newsletter. Updates you on podcast and blog posts. You can find us on Facebook, Alignment Group. I'm on Twitter at ShayJohnR and LinkedIn, of course. Contact me by sending me an email, jshay@alignment-group.com. And, of course, our website. Again, thanks for subscribing. And until next time, keep filling the funnel.